name's Paul Harris, and we're here for part 2 of the tutorial on a lighting software program called Lighting, and which I keep in a file folder called Lighting LX to keep it separate from my other lighting design files. I'm going to assume you watched part 1 of this tutorial. If you didn't, you should go back and watch it. It's available on YouTube. As with part 1, I also want you to know that I don't own this program and I'm not selling anything. This is just my way of helping you to navigate the program if you happen to have it, as it no longer has any online help or support available and there's no manual. I also want to strongly caution you that this tutorial is on the lighting software. It in no way qualifies you to work at heights, do a physical light hang, or electrical work. Please consult your local labor and safety regulations to find out what training and certification you need to do the actual physical job of hanging and connecting lights. Last time around, we looked at where to find the buttons, menus, and drawing tools on this program. Today, we're actually going to look at how to create an incredibly basic lighting design using the program. And we're going to take this one step at a time. So let's get started.
Step 1. Before you even open the program, go to where you keep your files, in this case on my desktop, and create a folder for all the lighting files that will be associated with the show you're working on. So I'm creating a folder for the show that I'm calling The Light Show. Now we're going to open the folder with the program in it and click on the symbol of the light to open it. Next, we're going to enlarge the screen, and we're going to use the View menu to get rid of the hints box. Now, just to be sure, we're going to drop down the File menu and click on New. Next, we're going to save our show. We go to Save As, and we're going to save it in our new folder on the desktop and call it The Light Show. The program will automatically give it the unique file extension of LDF, which will only open in this program. So far, so good. But we still aren't ready to start designing. We want to put in information about the show and the space we're working in. To do that, we're going to go to the File menu and open the Plan Properties tab. As you can see, this one is pretty simple. In the top space, you're going to write in the name of the show, The Light Show. Under that, the name of the designer. We assume that's you. The date should fill in automatically. You will often do more than one version of a design, so there is a version number that defaults to 1, and you can change that if you need to. And finally, a place to put in dimensions. For this, you're going to have the information you need about the space you're working in. How big is the theater or space that the stage and all the lights are in? There's the option of feet or meters. Well, we've been metric for a long time in Canada where I live. An awful lot of theater is still done in feet, standard cable lengths, the dimensions of the stage. We should probably be thinking metric. The plot will go up to 50 meters by 50 meters. That's probably bigger than any space you'll be using. Also remember that the footage will not show on the drawing. So if you find yourself working in a massive theater, you can simply say that you've decided each line on the grid is 10 feet apart. The measurements won't show on the printout. They're just there as a helper. We're going to say that I happen to know the theater I'm working in is 20 meters wide by 30 meters long. Now, when we hit OK, we will see that the grid on the main page has changed. If the width isn't fitting, go to the View tab and use Zoom to take it down to 75%. If for some reason you aren't seeing the grid, check the Grid tab in View, and you will see it. It does make a handy guide for drawing. And now we're ready to go. First, I want to be sure where my stage is. The stage could, of course, be any size, and it may be a peculiar shape like a circle or an oval. If you go to the little arrow that goes down beside the square on the lower toolbar, you'll see a drop-down of suggested number of sides for the object you're drawing, which they call points. Let's imagine for this show that the stage is circular. Choose ellipse, then click on the grid. You now have a circle. You can change the size of the circle by dragging on the little black box beside it. Pull down at a 45-degree angle and it gets bigger. Pull off to one side and it turns into an oval of whatever size and shape you want. And as with all shapes, the little green box will allow you to rotate it. We don't want a circle, so we will right-click on our circle, choose to delete it, and confirm that we want it gone. I happen to know that the stage I will be working on is 16 meters wide by 5 meters deep, and it's a rectangle. Because it's a rectangle, I'm going to choose a shape with 4 points. When I click on the screen, I get a square. I'm going to grab my little black box and turn this into a rectangle. Then I'm going to use the grid to size it to 16 meters by 5 meters. You'll notice that it changes the dimensions on both sides of the shape, so it may take a bit of juggling to get the size right. To move the shape, you just need to drop and drag with the mouse or trackpad. Now that the stage is in place, about a meter or two from the back wall, I've decided that I don't want it with the automatic gray fill, and I also want to label it as the stage. I do a double left click on the shape and a box comes up. I'm going to replace where it says shape with stage. I'm also going to get rid of the gray fill by clicking on polygon. The only other option there is polyline. It will turn your closed shape into an open line. I still haven't found a use for that, but there it is. Click OK. I also want to remember that there's a curtain all the way across the back of the stage. I'm going to go to the arrow beside the box with the line in it and pull it down. I just want to draw a line, so I choose 2 points. I click on the drawing and resize the line, and then drag it to where I think the curtain is. If I double click on it, I can rename it curtain. And click OK. This is the way you draw any line. And like all objects, the little green box will let you rotate it. You may have to use this feature to draw really odd shaped stages or to indicate where a cable is running if that information is important. So now we have our dimensions on the grid and we've added our stage. It's time to hang the first light in what will be a 2-light design. The first thing we need is something to hang the light on. In most theaters, there will be a grid of pipes on the ceiling. The convention for naming these is usually to use numbers and letters. Many people like using numbers from side to side, letters from front to back. Up in the ceiling, there'll usually be a place to plug the fixtures in after you hang them on the grid. Each plug will have a unique number on it to tell you what dimmer is connected to the back room. This is important information, as you'll need that information to figure out which light is being connected to where in your system. So we're going to use the lower toolbar and click on another one of those squares. This time, it's the sideways black line called Add Bar Mode. Now you can go down on the stage and left-click, and a bar will appear. This is where you will be hanging your lights. If you've been to the theater or been given notes, you'll know where these bars are located up in the ceiling. I happen to know that this one's about 10 meters from the back wall and roughly 10 meters long. Just like the shape, I can grab the little black boxes with my mouse and resize the bar. Now I want to name it. This will be important later as the program will tell me where all my lights are, so the bar needs a unique name. Double left click on the bar, and let's call it Pipe 1. The only other option here is to choose whether it's a bar or a truss. A truss is a multi-sided pipe, often added to the grid for some special reason. If you click on that, it will remind you that this pipe is a truss, but it doesn't look any different on the lighting plot. We're finally going to add our first light. Go to the lower toolbar and click on the picture of a light called Add Lantern Mode. Now hold the mouse over the bar and left click. A fixture will appear. The light that will always come up first is a light called Generic Parcan. They actually aren't used much anymore. We want to change that, but there's a lot more information we want to add about this light. So let's double click on the light and see what we want to say about it. The answer is we can say a lot. There are 3 pages where we can enter data. Start with the General tab. If we start at the top, you will see Caption. The program keeps a running total of how many lights you put up. You may want to use that, or you may want to use a numbering system of your own, perhaps numbering the lights on each pipe, whatever you like. On the next row, you get to pick the type of light. There's a built-in library that you can choose from, or you can add lights to that library, which we look at in lesson 3. But for today, we're going to say, we know that this is a face light. We don't know what brand, so we're going to pick Generic Profile. Next is the channel. You may not know this yet, but this is the channel you'll want to use to address this light from your console. Because a console allows you to specify which channel and fader you want to use to control it, the program gives you a chance to fill it in. You don't have to do this right away, but if you do know where you want this one to be, I'm saying it's going to go on fader 10, you can fill it in. There is a group box because you may want to put some lights in groups to trigger them together. Once again, you may or may not need this box, but it's there. We're not using it today. The last item on page 1 is the bar box that tells you the location. If the fixture is positioned right on your drawing, this will fill in automatically. If it's blank, the fixture may not be on the pipe. When it's on the pipe, you'll see it go from black to gray. Place the plus sign at the center of the fixture over the pipe. Page 2 is equipment. First, it wants to know if you're using a gel for this fixture. The default is no gel or open white. There's a drop down for all the popular gels by Roscoe and Lee, or you can type in your own. Just pick any gel. If you want to see what gel you're using on the final drawing, you can click on the Gel tab in the View menu, and the gel you've chosen will show up in gray beside the fixture. You can type in any gobo you're using, so it's added to the equipment list, and we'll look at that later. In this case, we'll say we're putting a leaf gobo in, so type in leaf. And finally, on page 2, any accessories you may need. Since we have a gel, we need to check off gel frame. Page 3 is the notes page. Here, you say what part of the stage you want the fixture to cover. In the case of this one, stage right, or SR. Next, we have the circuit box. This is where we can say which plug in the theater we want this light to be connected to. This information can help the crew when they're actually putting the lights up. Let's say we're using circuit 25 in the theater. The last box is for any special notes about this fixture. Is it a rental? Does it need a special holder for the gobo? In this case, it does. Any random information can go in there. We now click OK and go back to our drawing. The little green box is always at the front of the fixture. We can grab that with the mouse and aim the light at the stage. We're now going to hang the second light, and we're going to do it the lazy way. As a lighting plot often involves only minor differences in the fixtures, we're going to highlight our first light, right-click, and clone it. We can now drag it over to the other side of the bar and aim it. If we double-click on this fixture, we'll see that the program has given it the number 2. For the channel, we're going to say that it's going to be in fader 11 on the board, so we can fill that in. On the equipment page, we're changing our gel to a Roscoe 24 Scarlet. And no gobo. Now we go to the notes page. We note that for focus, this one will be stage left, or SL. It will be plugged into circuit outlet 26 in the theater. And we can delete the gobo holder. We click OK, and that fixture is done. For doing a more complicated plot, we just do with the same thing again and again until all the fixtures we're using are in position. While we've only done 2 fixtures, there's no limit to how many you can add. I've done designs that involve hundreds with no problem. You can add as many pipes and as many fixtures as you require. The next thing is to save your work. Now we have a very basic lighting plot that we can use in our next lesson to show you how to find all the paperwork that this program will produce for you, and also how to add your own lights to the library so you can call them up when you need them. Thanks for watching and see you next time.